Okay, guys, today we're going to be taking notes on writing and solving proportions. Add this to your table of contents and then put your journal to the side and get your notes page in front of you. So, when you are writing and solving proportions, you have 3 steps. Your 3 steps are to use cross products, then multiply, then divide to isolate the variable. And when I say isolate the variable, I mean get the variable by itself. Okay, so you have an example, 3/2 equals x over 8. So we're going to follow these 3 steps every single time to find this missing amount. This ratio is equal to that ratio. That's a proportion. So in order to find this missing amount, we can cross multiply and then divide to get the variable by itself. So when I say cross products, I mean take the denominator of one fraction and multiply it to the numerator of the other fraction. So this is 2 times 1x. You can't see the 1 because I like to call it a windy 1. You can't see it, but you have to know it's there. Every variable has an invisible 1 sitting in front of it. So we know 2 times 1 is 2, and then the x stays there. So we just did cross products and we multiplied. Now we're going to do the other side. We're going to cross products, and then we're going to do 3 times 8. So eventually, as you get really good at this, you'll do step 1 and 2 at the same time. So 3 times 8 is 24. And you have to keep the equal sign in the middle because one side is still equal to the other side. The third step is divide. I'm going to divide by the coefficient that is on the variable. So the 2 is attached to the variable. I want to get the variable by itself. So I have to undo the multiplication that's happening with division. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other side because we want to keep both sides equal. So those cancel and it becomes x. It has a windy 1 in front. You just can't see it. And then 24 divided by 2 is 12. That's your first example. So you have 4 examples where it says try it out. So we're going to go through those examples together. So you're going to use those 3 steps at the top of your page: cross products, multiply, divide. First, we're going to do cross products. Personally, I always like to do the cross products that has the variable. I like to multiply the variable first. So I'm always going to do 5 times the variable, whatever is being multiplied to the variable first. 5 times d, 5d. And then 8 times 20, 160. So cross products, multiply, and the very last step is divide. Those 3 steps over and over again. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other because it's equal. So this becomes D equals 32. Now, as we're doing this, pause the video and get your answer, and then come back to the video to see if you are correct, just like we do in class, where I have you try it first and then I give you the answer. Do it the same way here. So, second example, same 3 steps: cross products, multiply, divide. I'm going to start with the side that has the variable. So this becomes z times 14, which gives me 14z, 14 being the coefficient, set it equal to 7 times 10, which is 70. So cross products, multiply, very last step is divide. And you are dividing by the number that's attached to the variable. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other side because we want to keep it equal. So 70 divided by 14, z equals what? 5. Very good. Okay, let's go to the next example. Again, same 3 steps. Cross products, multiply, divide. So I'm going to start with the side with the variable. Well, Ms. Cortez, what do I do if I start with the other side? Is my answer going to be wrong? No, it's not. As long as you set both sides equal to each other and divide at the end, you have to make sure you divide by the number that's attached to the variable. But no, it doesn't matter which side you start with. So this becomes 4 times m equals then 7 times 44, and that gives me 308. 7 times 44. Cross product, multiply, last step, divide. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. M equals what? 77. Box your answer. Okay, let's look at number 4. Why don't you pause the video, try to do number 4 on your own, and then come back and see if you have the same answer that I have. Okay, welcome back. I didn't quite finish it, but I did do the first 2 steps. So I did cross products, and then I have my multiplication here, and I have one more step, which is to do what? Divide. You have to divide by the number that is attached to the variable. So I'm going to divide both sides by 48 because that's the number that's attached to the variable. So my answer is D equals 9. Okay, on the bottom half of your notes, you have a section called writing proportions. Here, you're going to use a table or word problems to write the proportions before you solve them. Once you write the proportions, you'll solve them the same way that we were solving the examples above. So let's get started. In an animal shelter, the ratio of dogs to cats, pay attention to what comes first, is 5 to 3. 5 to 3. There are 25 dogs. Write and solve a proportion to find the number of cats. And this variable inside the parentheses simply means this is the variable that they want you to use. But you don't have to use C. You can use any variable. You can use X. It all works the same. So let's set up our proportion. So because dogs came first, dogs goes on top. Cats goes on the bottom. Dogs to cats. So now we're going to set up our proportion. 2 ratios that are equal to each other. So we have our first proportion is 5 to 3. And I'm going to set it equal to my second ratio. So we got to keep reading to find out what we need to put. There are 25 dogs. So we are going to put this number 25 in our ratio where we put dogs. Dogs are in the numerator, so 25 goes in the numerator, and then C goes in the denominator. So pause the video, use cross products, multiply, and divide, and tell me how many cats we have in the shelter. Okay, so you should have Cross products, 5 times C is 5C. 3 times 25 is 75. And then we have to do the very last step, which is divide. You have to divide by the coefficient, the number that's attached to the variable. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. You want to keep it equal. C equals 15. So since this is a word problem, you want to make sure you answer the question. And the question is, how many cats? 15 cats. Okay, let's jump over and look at the next word problem. The next word problem is talking about the purchase of t-shirts. You can buy 3 t-shirts for $24. 3 t-shirts for $24. Write and solve a proportion that gives the cost of buying 7 t-shirts. So what comes first? The t-shirts. What's going to go in our numerators? Our numerator? T-shirts. And then in the denominator, the cost or the money. So now let's write our first ratio. 3 t-shirts for $24. So that's going to be 3 over 24. Let's keep reading, see if we can figure out our second proportion, or our second ratio. So write and solve a proportion that gives the cost, C, of buying 7 t-shirts. So 7 is going to go in the numerator where we put t-shirts. C is going to go in the bottom where we put our cost. So pause the video. Use the 3 steps. Cross products, multiply, divide by the number attached to the variable, because you want the variable by itself. Okay, so I did step 1 and 2. Check your work. Cross products, 3 times C, multiply 3C. Cross product, 24 times 7, multiply equals 168. And now we just have one more step, which is divide. What you do to one side, you have to do to the other. We're dividing by 3 because 3 is what is attached to the variable, and that's what we're trying to get away from the variable. We want the variable by itself. So C equals 56. Now the question is, how much? And since this is a word problem, you want to make sure you have the proper label, which it wouldn't just be 56, it would be $56. The cost of buying 7 t-shirts is $56. Okay, we're on the last 2 examples in the middle, and it says, use the tables to write a proportion and solve the proportion. So now we did word problems, we did just straightforward proportions, and now we're going to use the values in the tables. Let's start with this very first example. So on this table, we're comparing wins to races. Our wins are in the numerator, races are in the denominator. So you don't really have to do a lot to set up your equal proportions here, because it is your equal ratios, because it's already set up. You just take this information and rewrite it. W over 21 equals 8 over 12. Same 3 steps. Cross products, multiply, divide. Pause the video and solve it. Okay, you should have gotten W equals 14. Now, look at the next example with hurricanes and storms. Set up your proportion, cross products, multiply, and divide. Come back to see if you did the correct process and got the correct answer. Okay, you should have gotten N equals 3. So go ahead and fold your paper up underneath the label and glue it into your journal.